Hey guys, I'm Ashley Patterson with the Patterson Group and Royal LePage Atlantic. I am over here at Scotia along Burnside today with one of my favorite real estate lawyers, Suzanne Robichaud. Suzanne and I have been working together for many years, and I thought it would be a great opportunity to pop on with her today to answer some commonly asked questions by home buyers and home sellers. Hi, Suzanne.
Hi, Ash.
Thanks for joining us today.
You're very welcome.
So one of the most popular questions that we receive as agents is, what does closing costs entail for a buyer?
That is the most frequently asked question that I get, and the valid one as well. There's a lot of expenses in a home transaction, so they want to make sure that they're ready, and that's a question.
Have everything set aside.
Yeah, I can appreciate that. There's a lot of different things that are going on. So anything that I can make to make them feel more comfortable about the transaction, I normally provide them with a list of closing costs that they're going to be faced with at close to closing, and I'm sure you do as well. The biggest closing cost is the due transfer tax. It's 1.5% of the purchase price. Now every county is different. However, HRM is 1.5%.
And there's no escaping that.
No, there isn't.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. The other one of the other closing costs is registration of anything that goes down to the land registration office and needs to be registered on title is $100. So it's, if you have a deed and a mortgage, you've got $100 for that. So $200 for that. And then there's title insurance. That is something that I explain to my clients, and if anyone has any questions about title insurance, they can definitely reach out.
Because it kind of goes into detail, but generally it's optional. But if somebody wants it, it's generally
I actually encourage all my clients to get it. It's a very good product, and it's between $179 and $250.
Perfect.
Then there are legal fees. So normally they would differ between, whether it's a sale, used residential, new construction, condo. So different transactions are going to be different, all the different work that goes into it. So normally you're looking at between $800 and about $1,200 for that range. Then there would be a property tax adjustment. So the buyer would be paying back the seller for some of the property taxes that they've paid, if they've paid them.
So from date of closing, when the buyer takes possession, until whenever the seller has paid up, until
that's right.
Go back
exactly
to the seller at closing.
Exactly. Yeah. So we're adjusting for that, and depending on the time of the year that the buyers are buying, that could be a little bit more significant, that amount, or it could be a little less. So it just depends on what time. Then depending on how the property is heated, there could be an oil adjustment or a propane adjustment. So that normally the seller would fill up an oil tank or a propane tank, and the buyer would pay them back for that full tank. Then there could be tenants in the property that we'd adjust for. There could be leases, so propane tank lease, hot water tank lease, things like that. And those are pretty much
awesome.
Most of the closing costs.
Yeah, I think that outlines it all. And it's kind of safe to say, on average, I usually tell my clients to set aside 3% of the purchase price for closing costs. Would you say that's?
Yeah, I think that's a good average. Most of the times, the difference in that would be the oil adjustment,
right?
Because when you're looking at filling up a whole tank of oil or paying back the sellers for that, you're looking at $8,000-$9,000.
Yeah, that's true.
So that would be the difference,
right? And then from a seller's perspective, from closing costs, what does that all entail? If the property's migrated,
right?
And
so this for the sale, the legal fees are still there. Any documentation that we have to submit to the land registration, so a release of mortgage, that would be there, so $100 for that. The realtor fees, and then the same thing, we're doing property tax adjustment, lease adjustments, anything like that at all. For condos, we have to pay what's called an estoppel certificate. So to get all the condo documents sent over to us and provide that to the buyer's lawyer, that's an extra expense.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, those are most of them.
Awesome. Okay, well, thank you for that.
You're welcome.
One other thing that I wanted to quickly touch on, if you could help explain this to potential home buyers and even home sellers, is when my clients ask if there's a location certificate or a lot plan, or if they should get a survey done. What all does that entail? If they're buying a property that doesn't have a location certificate or survey, how do they go about knowing where their boundaries are and what exactly they're purchasing?
That's a really good question. Nowadays, what's happening for most transaction is title insurance covers that. So again, that's a conversation that I have with the clients and explain that to them. The difference between a location certificate and a survey is a location certificate is the surveyor's going out and showing or indicating on a certificate where exactly these structures are located.
Okay.
Where the driveway is, where the home is, if there is any encroachment. Whereas a survey that's being done, you're actually pinning and putting the pins where.
Okay.
They're marking the boundaries of the property.
Right. Okay. So yeah, I guess that would be different then, and then they would have to hire. So it'd be up to the buyer to hire a surveyor if they wanted to know where the pins and
yes, unless it's a condition of the agreement of purchase and sale.
Okay. And then if they wanted a location certificate, a surveyor still does that too.
Yes.
It's just different.
That's right. And it's normally more expensive to have a survey done than a location certificate.
Yeah. What are generally the costs for that?
That's a really good question. Normally, I think it goes per, and from my experience, it goes the size of the lot. So
right.
I don't.
Okay. That's true.
I'm not necessarily that knowledgeable in the actual cost.
Pricing. Okay, fair enough. Yeah. That's why I always say ask the other affiliates. Exactly.
Ask the professionals.
Yeah. Well, that's great. Thank you so much for Suzanne for joining us today and answering these commonly asked questions. I always say that you learn something new every day, so hopefully this video is helpful. And if anyone has any other questions, please feel free to reach out to myself or Suzanne Robichaud with Scotia Law. Thanks, guys. Yeah.